Welcome, here's the hat. Until the next video.
I'm a psychic. I can see your inner thoughts. You're confused, right? Goodbye. Goodbye. About 20 years ago, a friend of mine told me a story. And those were the days when we were artists scorched by our inner flame. Meaning that we were a bunch of young guys, young, slightly arrogant guys, most of the time half drunk, trying to channel our inner Jim Morrison. Those were the days. I'm really glad that they are behind. Because being young and naive is fun, but that's because you don't know any better.
When Andy Warhol was starting his career in the New York art scene, he was a fan of Salvador Dali. And when they met, he asked how to be famous, how to get in the cover of a newspaper. Dali's answer was, read tomorrow's newspaper. Warhol did. And there was Dali, being arrested by the police. What happened, according to the story, after having that conversation with Warhol, Dali went to the opening event of one of his exhibitions. And one of the items there was an art installation that included a bathtub. So Dali looked at his work, he looked at the room, then decided, doesn't fit. So he pushed the bathtub out from the window. And mind you, they were pretty high up in downtown New York. So if the story is true, or even partially true, I don't know which parts of the story are add-ons and which is actually fact, an actual fact. I think it's easy to check from the realms, from the depths of the internet. I think you can find how this story actually went, but this is the way it was told to me. But if that story is even partially true, when looking at Warhol's hard pronunciation work after that event, I think it's safe to say that he got the message. Artists shouldn't make the audience feel emotionally comfortable. But it's the other way around. The artist should actively try to pull the audience away from their comfort zones. A good artist is unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen next. Doesn't matter if it's music, writing, books, sculpting, painting. A good artist is unpredictable. If you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, so your audience will know what to expect, you're not an artist, you're an entertainer. And if you want to have mainstream success as an artist, the sweet spot is somewhere in between. So your audience can they have some kind of an idea what to expect, but the next project from that artist can be something very drastically different than what she have done before. So Kalle Ahola, the vocalist of a Finnish band Don Huonot, once said, you shouldn't try to please the audience, you should try to irritate the audience. And that doesn't translate very good from Finnish to English. What he was basically meaning is that you shouldn't please the audience. That's the same. But irritate the audience. What does that mean? Irritate the audience. Well, you can always be, for example, let's take a musician or a band, you can always be a complete idiot towards your audience. That's one way to do it. That's not constructive. Or it can be constructive, but in most cases it's not. Don't try to please. Don't try to make them feel emotionally comfortable. Do something that causes a reaction. Because if you look at these kind of classical artists of our century, and you look at those kind of occult artists like Warhol, Dali, well, you can say Jim Morrison, Tom Waits, all of those people were unpredictable, but they did it in a way that caught people's imagination. If you go to a show and nobody reacts, it would look kind of weird. Well, just imagine, you go to see a band, and then everybody in the audience are rock polices. So everybody are just standing with their hands across their chest, just staring to the stage. That would feel kind of odd, don't you think? But if that happens, then in my opinion, the band is not doing all that good job when it comes to interacting with the audience. That's something that, well, let's say G.G. Allin did. He forced the audience to react, although those were the punk years, but anyway, or Iggy Pop. He forced, in his early days, he forced the audience to react. If you want to look at it from a speaker's point of view, someone who's not making music, not necessarily writing, they're speaking. A good speaker doesn't provoke by saying something. He'll provoke to say something. If you're with me here. That's why there are so few interesting people around these days, because of all of this political correctness. My English is very good today. So let's take, for example, someone like George Carlin. Look, one of his stand-up acts from, let's say, late 80s, early 90s. Wouldn't fit anymore, because you can't say things like that. That's one of the things. All of this political correctness and SJW taken way out of context has pretty much destroyed stand-up comedy. If you can't laugh to a stereotype, then there's something wrong in our culture. Because stereotypes are meant to be laughable. Those stereotypes are something that are being taken way out. And that's why we have them. That's why we have this stereotype of a Scotsman. That's why we have this stereotype of a gay person. That's why we have a stereotype of a Midwestern guy with a pickup truck and a wool cap. We have those things because they are entertaining in a way. But on the other hand, I do understand why some groups don't want to be labeled as stereotypes. For example, what comes to sexual minorities, it's about their own identity. It's something that goes very deep. And well, kind of same thing with for example, skin color. I do understand why they don't like certain groups from that larger group, why they don't like stereotypes or stereotypes being thrown around in the media or in publicly in general. If our kind of political and social way of thinking, if it keeps on going to the direction it's heading right now, in the future there will be not all that many things to laugh about, unless it's something that I made in the beginning of this video, which was kind of a bad parody of a YouTube video. Because you have seen, if you're browsing through YouTube, you'll find these videos where there's, for example, a young girl who just makes a video because of a video and there's no content in that video. It's just pure entertainment, and yes, we do need entertainment. People have accused me for being anti-entertainment in the past. The basic reason why I'm criticizing entertainment, or why I've been criticizing entertainment, and I still am, is that what comes to Finnish YouTube scene, there really isn't room for anything else. There's very little anything else for me. Obviously, if you are a younger person, there are a lot of good channels to follow. Content creators who are same age as you, so you can connect to them. But if you look at the older, more mature YouTubers, let's say this in Finland, there's nobody, literally nobody for me to relate, because I want some content that's kind of mentally challenging, not just in here, out here. We do need entertainment. As human beings, we need it. We need to laugh. We need to be entertained. We need to feel good. But if you don't have to think anything, with the exception of what to eat, that's not a good thing in the long run. No, if you want to talk with me, that's fine. But if you want to have a conversation with me, challenge me, you shouldn't try to please. You should try to challenge. Because just talking to somebody, just chit-chatting, small talking, whatever it is called, that's one thing. And there are rules for that, how to do it. And we are going along with those rules without thinking about it. But then if you want to have an actual conversation that's challenging in a good way, those are hard to find nowadays. Those are very, very hard, and I love YouTubers who are challenging their audience. Well, for example, that one quote I took, that you shouldn't provoke by saying something, you should provoke to say something. That was actually from a channel to Leian Perspective. And the person who's running that channel is Vark Biganes, man behind Burtsum. And I'm a semi-active follower of his channel. I'm not sharing his opinions about certain things. But there are quite a few, if you listen, and obviously if you use your own head while listening, there are a lot of small nuggets of truth in what he's saying. What comes to being an individual thinker. Nowadays, if you are an individual, you are kind of a free thinker who likes to find their own facts and likes to form their own opinions. Those people are kind of being taken as, well, without the lack of a better word, assholes. Kind of snobby people. Because we are so used to this thing that we don't really have to think. If you watch mainstream TV, you don't really have to think. If you go to the movies, what comes to the script, you don't really have to think, because it's all about special effects nowadays. So there's very little in modern world that forces you to think, that forces you to evaluate different points of view. Because things seem to be so pre-chewed. All you have to do is swallow. You don't have to chew them yourself. This time I remembered the light. Although it's been so long since the last time I used it, I'm not sure if I did it correctly what comes to the amount of light and direction. But if you're not a long-time viewer, you might wonder, why am I outdoors constantly? Well, I'm not outdoors as much as you may think what comes to these videos. I'm just filming these outdoors. But
You might be able to relate what I'm saying. I'm one of those who can't think straight when standing still. When I'm sketching out concepts and ideas for various things that I'm working on or I'm planning to do or something, I have to be on the move in order to zoom out. It's very frustrating to work on a small detail just to find out in the end that it doesn't fit when you take those 2 steps back and you look at the bigger picture. And this applies to quite a few people actually. Only the method can be a bit different. It can be walking around like me. It can be going to the gym. It can be reading. It can be just sitting in a park observing people. Whatever. Depends on a person. But it's about getting into a state where the stream of consciousness is flowing freely. And you're standing on the edge of it, fishing. If you do that long enough, eventually something will take the bait. It can be a big one, it can be a small one, but it's still a catch. And the end result depends on how good of a chef you are. And I think that makes me a bit weird. Not the fact that I'm doing this kind of thing, but the fact that I'm talking about this, because you don't usually hear someone talking about something like this, because this is a bit of a deeper stuff. And I like to go deep. Dig deep, brother. But the problem is that finding same-minded people who are not annoying in one way or another is a bit hard, but I think that's part of the package. If you want to go deeper, you are kind of annoying to some people. So the worst enemy of a wolf is another wolf. I think it applies some way, one way or another in this case. And now I'm sounding like a pseudo-intellectual. God damn it. Obviously, this is hard part of vlogging. I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to put it without sounding smug to my own ears. Fascinating, annoying, and I think part of the vlogging experience. And if somebody wants to hear, if somebody wants to listen to what I'm saying, they're listening. But again, well, that leads us back to the frustration part, because I've said a lot of things in the past that have been misunderstood and taken out of concept. And that's one of the reasons I'm so goddamn careful when I'm trying to form a sentence. Once again, one thing you want to relate, you can relate. You want to be understood. But in order to be understood correctly, you have to form what you have to say in a way that doesn't leave any room for interpretation. But words are always easy to twist around. And annoyed vlogger. Interesting once again. Or it's not even interesting anymore. Now I'm just blabbering around, saying out loud things that I'm thinking. That's what vlogging is basically about, or it should be. But at the same time, am I revealing too much? Maybe. If you're still there, let me tell you one thing. Everything I said in this video was true. Well, that Warhol Dali story, that was the way it was told to me years ago. And if you want to know how things actually went, it's easy for you to check, so you can do that for yourself. But personally, I don't really care if that's true or not, because it's a good story with a clear message. This whole video was planned from the ground up to cause reactions. Did you react it? I think it's safe to say that you did. Maybe you agreed, maybe you disagreed, maybe you got irritated, or maybe you thought that I'm a wise guy, wise man. Well, that I'm not. Wisdom is something that grows from experience, and experience is something that comes with age. I'm not old enough to be wise. But I'd like to think that I've seen enough to be a independent thinker. And because of my lack of wider vocabulary, that sounded so official and narcissistic. The message I've been pushing here for the last week or so is use your own head, do your own research, and form your own opinions based on that. Well, duh, obviously, you might think. Are you really doing that? Or are you just going with the flow? Obviously, going with the flow is the easy option, and there are times, situations in life where it's temporarily the best option. But if you're doing that year after year after year, you'll become just another brick in the wall. And again, if that's what you want to do, that's your own decision, and others have to respect that. And telling the truth, I don't even know where I'm going with this anymore. With this video, I mean. Just that frustration is strong with this one. Well, see ya!